Greetings everyone, welcome to a brand new content from Throttle Alpha. So it brings me immense joy to tell you guys that I finally managed some time to review a motorcycle, and I've came out here at Teknaf, Bangladesh to give an overview of the ZONTES G1 SCRAMBLER bike, a street scrambler bike. And Zontes Bangladesh is distributing this bike officially here. So kudos to Zontes Bangladesh for providing me this unit to review. And I've ridden almost about 480 kilometers with this motorcycle, and one thing I can say is that it has been an immense joy riding this motorcycle, at least from the rider's perspective, and I think this bike does an absolutely amazing job for touring. So pretty gloomy weather out here today. It's pretty sunny here. The beach is looking absolutely fine, and for riding conditions I think the weather is very ideal. So I'm wandering off in Teknaf, and it might be a little breezy here, like there's a lot of wind, and I'm sorry if the wind's getting you. So initially I would like to start off from the rider's perspective. So the handlebar setup does an excellent job. You see, from a scrambler bike you definitely expect an upright handlebar, and this bike has a pretty upright handlebar and it's very easy to ride around with. From the chest level to the holding area, I think it does a pretty comfortable job in holding up, and for touring of about 480 kilometers from Dhaka to here, I think I had no significant problems with the handlebar for this motorcycle. And to the dash console too, I think this does a very good job with the switch gears that the bike has. The switch gears are quality materials, and as you can see, there are a lot of keys here. This one's the hazard indication, basically the emergency blinkers. This is for the high and low beam. These are the conventional indicator switches, and this is for the horn. And this is the conventional headlight, the kill switch, and the self starter. But this switch right here, switch that converts the ECU to swap into two modes. One is the eco mode, which is what the bike is at now, and once I switch this off, the bike is in sport mode. And I didn't find any significant changes in performance with the switch setup, but I can say that it feels a bit gruntier in the higher rev. It feels a bit more powerful in the higher rev. So I think the sport mode can be an option when you're chasing top ends. And with the cluster guard setup, as you can see, the cluster guard indicates a lot important information that you need. There's the gear indicator here, and you can also see the real-time temperature of the engine in the cluster guard. So I think that they did an excellent job with adding this, the temperature meter. For riding sense, this bike is very maneuverable. You can very quickly change your maneuverability with the bike, and this bike does an excellent job with the maneuverability. So yeah, with the rideability, this bike is very comfortable. Well, since this place is all about beaches and coconuts, I thought why not take the bike near a beach where I can showcase the bike's ins and out and talk a bit in brief about the bike. So guys, this is it, the ZONTES G1 SCRAMBLER 155. as it is written here. Well, I would like to talk in brief about the motorcycle now. I don't know how my audibility is at the moment, but I hope you guys can hear me and can hear the wonderful tone of the beach as well. So this beach is located near Inani and in Teknaf, Bangladesh, and that's the Royal Tulip Resort right there, and the beach just looks wonderful. So I chose and preferred a bit of a sunny atmosphere to review this motorcycle because I thought that you guys need to see everything in brief, and this discussion here would help you understand the ZONTES G1 a bit better. So well, in terms of being a scrambler, they preferred designing it with a lot of things involved with it, and coming from the chassis to the make to the overall durability of the bike, I must say that I'm heavily impressed with however the bike's been built. And as I've talked about the switch gears and whatnot, the overall design and the overall fitment of the bike has been an excellent job done, and you don't actually expect Chinese manufacturers to do well with the build of the bike, but this bike does have a pretty good manufacturing here. Now coming more to the design for this motorcycle, I absolutely love the way the headlights been designed. Like in our current market here, I think this is one of the best pre-existing headlights in the market. It has 5 LEDs in total, and the illumination is quite clear with the low beam itself, and the high beam does an absolutely amazing job as well. And as you can see here, the night view or the night perspective with this headlight being on, treat for the eyes. I had no problem in the highway riding in the night time whatsoever. I did travel from Dhaka to Cox's Bazar in the night time, and I can say this headlight did an absolutely amazing job. And once you turn the switch on, you have the day making LED that's turned on already. So I think this is the best headlight in the market delivering in this price point. You have a lot of competitors in these price points. You have a lot of high-end and premium bikes too, but I think this headlight will deliver the best. You would need no attachment of extra fog lamps and whatnot.
and the tail light too is LED oriented, and I think the tail light looks very futuristic as well. And the LED blinkers are also visible, quite legible in the highway. You will have no problem with lighting whatsoever. So the Suomy SRGP has been my helmet for this trip, and one thing I can also say is that you need a good helmet for touring, and this helmet delivered a lot in this trip, I'd say. So coming to the seats for the motorcycle, from the rider's seating position, the seats are very comfortable, but the pillion seat, it turned out to be a bit hard. As you can see, the pillion seat is a bit minimal, so it might be a bit uncomfortable for the pillion to, lean forward and sit. And one more thing with the design is that the foot pegs, for the rider, the foot peg position is quite okay, but for the pillion, the foot peg position is a bit forwarded. So what happens is that the leg apex is a bit angled when you're seating in the pillion seat. You're seating here, but your leg is diverging to this point. The pillion seat might feel a bit off, but I would say scrambler motorcycles are mainly designed for lone wolf travelers, I would say. Mainly ADV lovers or enduro lovers or scrambler motorcycle lovers, they prefer to travel or mainly ride the bike alone. So this bike delivers a lot with the rider's seat. And once you're mounted in the bike, so from the seating position, you would feel no problem whatsoever. The design also features a 20-liter fuel tank. Yes, this bike can bear 20 liters of fuel. So I would say for a full tank and for the mileage that this bike offers, a full tanker would get you around 750 to 800 kilometers at least. So the tank has been a very big touring upper hand. And another very important part about this motorcycle is the ground clearance. As you can see, this bike levels to 200 millimeters of ground clearance. So the ground clearance has been an excellent addition with the design, because I found no hardship in tackling speed breakers or in tackling the roughs of the highways. So the ground clearance for this motorcycle really delivers ideally. You have a crash guard or a crash protector already present or pre-built with the chassis, so you won't need to add an extra crash guard for the bike. So I think this has been also a solid addition in terms of touring. You have liver protectors attached in both sides, and these aren't plastic. These are reinforced materials, and most of the parts in the chassis is aluminum forged, and the livers are also adjustable. So I think these additions are really nice. And the bike weighs around 130 kilograms, I guess, or about 128 kilograms. And the weight distribution is quite okay, and mainly the front of the handle might feel a bit more weight deviated because you have an upside down suspension in the front, and the upside down telescopic suspension really makes the front feel a bit more less stiff. A lot of people might complain about the bike feeling a bit awkward, but no, scrambler motorcycles or these sort of bikes tend to be a bit off with the weight as well. So I think the weight distribution wasn't a problem for this bike, and I think the bike does a good grounding in high speed, and the monoshock too delivers absolutely amazingly. I would say this is one of the best suspensions in this price point, and there's a very large sprocket setup here, and the chain setup too for this bike has been an excellent addition done. I didn't have any chain related issues in the last 500 kilometers of riding this motorcycle. And swing arms, an aluminium swing arm, and I would say I'm heavily impressed with how this swing arm is. So coming to the tires for this motorcycle, as you can see, this bike is consisting of an off-road tire, and this CST off-road tire has been an excellent addition done with the bike. The rim is dot rated, and most importantly, the rim build is really good as well. You have a 17-inch rim here and a 130 section tire to the rear, and the tire does an absolutely amazing job with the traction of how it is. I had a pretty sandy 2-3 days of riding this bike, and I must say the tires did an absolutely amazing job with the grip punch, wet traction, and with also stability. I would say the tires left no room for complaint. I'm also impressed with the cornering ability of the tire too. The front tire is of 110 sections, and this too is of 17-inch of rim setup, and I think both the tires does an amazing job with traction and overall control. And the front tire is too off-road oriented. As you can see, you have these spoke designs done here, but the rim is an alloy rim, so you don't worry about this rim being a tube tire for the spokes. It's a tubeless tire, and the connection for the spokes has been made outside the rim, so this makes the bike look a bit more edgy as well. Now coming to the last part of the design, the exhaust tip is made of titanium, and I think the exhaust looks pretty damn good with however it is. I'm absolutely amazed with the grunt of the exhaust too. The upper hand of having the titanium exhaust in the first place that it's lightweight, and number two is that it's stainless. The piping is coated and protected to forged metal setup. So all in all, the bike was really thoughtfully designed. Now Now, coming to the most important factor for this bike, it's the engine. The bike features a SOHC water-cooled 6-speed 155cc engine that produces about 16.8 Nm of torque and about 18.8 horsepower. Well, the number might look seemingly large, but let me tell you, for naked motorcycles, these performers are not top-end oriented, so I would ask you to not expect a lot of top-end from this bike. The engine is a very good deliverer with the torque. The first 3 gears mainly feels absolutely tremendous with the torque delivery. This bike can range to a top speed of around 130 to 128 kilometers per hour, but I would say the torque of this bike is the main game changer for riding hills or to climb upland low terrains. From the engine braking to the torque delivery, the bike does an absolutely amazing job. Since the bike is liquid cooled, I found no heating issues whatsoever with the bike, but I would say this bike does an amazing job with the heat management. The cylinders are aluminum casted as well, so what it allows with is that the sealed aluminum chambers allows more waterway access to the engine, which helps with the temperature management. So I would say the 4-valve engine that this bike has, it does an absolutely decent job with the torque delivery, not a power pooler, and this requires around 1 liter of engine oil. Starting from the engine oil to the filters to the air filters and whatnot, all these parts would be officially available at Teknaf Bangladesh, so you would get everything you need for this motorcycle there. And for international viewers, we have the 155 variant here, the 155cc variant in Bangladesh. We don't have the 125cc variant here officially. So yes, the 155cc consists of a 4-valve liquid-cooled 6-speed engine, and I think this does a serious good job with the torque pooling. The mileage that the ZONTES G1 could provide me with was around 34 to 32 kilometers per liter in the city, 44 to 43 kilometers per liter in the highway. That's what I can assume with the mileage that I've achieved. And with the 20 liters of fuel tank, I think with the mileage of however this bike does, you can achieve an overall of 800 to 700 kilometers up and down with this engine and the mileage that it provides. The ZONTES G1 Scrambler also consists of a lot of sensor. It has the lean sensor, it has AFR sensor, it has oxygen sensor and whatnot. So you have a lot of sensor consistency in this bike, and definitely this bike is fuel injected. So in terms of the mileage and efficiency too, being FI and being 4-valve really helped improve the mileage for this bike. So ideally very good for a 155cc FI motorcycle. And as you can see, the seat removal or the seat opening for the battery access or the sensor access is operated from the key switch. So if you press this switch to the left, like a scooter basically, you get to raise the seat from this position. So all the sensors and all the boards etc. is located in the rear of the seat. You have a very large battery here, and the battery operates to the point where you can connect auxiliary accessories as well and charge them and use them, and this battery won't dim down for using fog lights and whatnot. So good access of battery, good placement, and also good coating in the under seat part. You don't have to worry about water access in the wiring. I think this will do an excellent addition in terms of touring as well, because you won't have access of mud or readily available water accessing these parts as well. So good internal design too. But one of the flaws with the fuel tank is that I didn't like the fuel tank cap design. As you can see, as you need to put the key here, the access of the key is at times not accessible, number one. As you can see, I can face problem with the access of this, and once the key has been accessed in the fuel tank cap, it does a problem with the removal. I think the fuel tank cap could be a bit better. And the whole fuel tank cap raises to the top. As you can see, it leaves this part empty, which might allow for microscopic gaps by the fuel tank cover, which can access dirt to the tank. I think the fuel tank cap design wasn't a bit thoughtful with the bike. And coming to one very important factor with the engine as well is that the overall traction and the overall control for this bike really depended a lot on the clutch. Yes, this bike has a slipper clutch, and the slipper clutch really added up to be a very good addition for this bike. The engine brakes are really good, and if you miss time or miscalculate any shift, the bike drops the RPM in a very stable manner. The movement in the hand feels a lot lighter, and if a gear change is mistimed, so as the engine and road speed differs hugely, the slipper clutch softens the blow. The unintentional wheel lock are much avoided with the slipper clutch, like you would not expect much of a wheel lock with however the slipper clutch is performing. The mechanical shock is also lessened, and the rider comfort and safety is ensured a lot with this slipper clutch. And in this price point, getting to engine brake as much as you want and getting to engine brake rough has been a privilege. So hats off with the gearbox for this bike. I really didn't expect a torque pooler or a SOHC bike to have a smooth gearbox like this one.
So as you can see, moving along the beach sand, the sand here is pretty slippery, but the G1 isn't having much of a hassle with managing traction out here in the wild. I would say the torque adds up to be really good to the first 3 gears for this motorcycle, and traction isn't much of an issue for this bike because I really like how the tire behaves with the engine, and it has been a solid R&D work done all in all. So now coming to the braking for the ZONTES G1 Scrambler, this bike has been equipped with dual channel ABS, and yes, the dual channel ABS setup for this motorcycle is from Bosch. So the German components added up to the bike really adds up to this bike being extra special because you have German components in the braking, and I must say the braking does an absolutely amazing job.
I made a stop by to showcase you guys how the braking for the Zontes is, and as you can see, you have a 240mm rear disc brake, and this too has ABS. Starting from the pedal to the caliper, everything's been designed in Germany, and the whole braking system offers really good components and parts addition. As you can see, the caliper designed to the hoses that has been used in this bike, I must say they focused a lot on the braking for this motorcycle. And as to the front, as you can see, disc is very large with the lightweight 17-inch rim setup. This stood up to be a very large disc. This is a 300mm front disc, and this too has ABS, and I really like the calipers for the brake. The brake really adds up with the maneuverability of the bike, and I must say I felt really confident throughout the highway and had no issues whatsoever. So guys, this was it about the Zontes G1. Well, I would like to close this video with a few cons that this bike has, and the number one con that I found with this bike was that this bike has no radiator guard, and number two is the pillion seat wasn't comfortable enough for a very long ride, and number three would be I did not like the viewing mirrors. The viewing mirrors weren't appealing at all. They change positions very easily in high speed or in wind blast. So these were a few minor cons that I got with this bike, but otherwise, design wise, the way the engine performs, the way this bike is an all-terrain traction master, I really liked everything about this bike, and especially how good the torque is. And otherwise, a few simple cons that I've mentioned before. The previous con that I mentioned, that the fuel tank cap wasn't appealing enough. This whole setup needs to be a bit better, and all in all, I think this bike is a great package, a great combo. So for the price tag, I will mention all availability details and the price of this bike in the description box below, and do check it out, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel for further content. We will be coming out with more content very soon. So I hope this content helped you understand the Zontes G1 a bit better. Well, I'm experiencing a very beautiful sunset here, and the weather here is totally amazing. Well, it was a great experience riding this motorcycle from Dhaka to Cox's Bazar, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. So do stay connected with us, do follow us on Facebook, and do follow us on Instagram. Do stay subscribed to our YouTube channel. Till then, take care, stay safe, and stay subscribed. Thank you.